It's my pleasure to rise today to speak to our Opposition Day motion on removing fuel tax until Labour Day. While many of my colleagues may focus on the immediate economic benefit that this proposal will have on every single financially strapped Canadian listening today, I'd also like to complement the conversation with an element of mental health. As we all know, mental health has been declining in Canada. A piece in the Queen's Gazette succinctly says a 2023 report from Statistics Canada has revealed that despite over half of Canadians reporting very good or excellent overall health, mental health is on a concerning decline. Anxiety and mood disorders, particularly among vulnerable populations, have surged, with a notable impact on ages 18 to 34 years old. According to the Mental Health Association of Canada, in any given year, 1 in 5 people will personally experience a mental health problem or illness. I don't think this is news to anyone. This is a real problem, Madam Speaker. While the pandemic certainly played a large role in this worsening public disaster, it's not the only culprit. The mental health of Canadians is declining nearly in lockstep with their financial health. 2 months ago, the Canadian Institute for Health Information issued a press release suggesting Canadians increasingly report poor mental health, cite growing economic concerns as a contributing factor. Compared to the Commonwealth Fund average, Canadians had higher percentages of its residents that worry about affording rent, worried about food security, and worried about having a roof over their head at all. Its message is clear. Canada is lagging considerably behind its Commonwealth allies when it comes to economic stressors on mental health. Madam Speaker, I know the other parties here today care about mental health. In their 2021 platform, Forward for Everyone, the government had a page and a bit of their 89-page platform dedicated to mental health. It opened with, in a typical year, 1 in 5 Canadians will experience a mental illness or addiction problem. As we know that over the last 18 months, nearly half of Canadians reported that their mental health worsened during the pandemic. Mental health is health, and that is why we have made mental health a priority. Our friends, Madam Speaker, in the NDP had very similar overtures in their Ready for Better platform. What I find troubling and confusing is that the Liberal government would engage in such dramatic inflationary spending and impose crippling tax measures onto cash-strapped Canadians. It's even more confusing as to why the NDP would play the role of the enabler for the Liberal government. It turns out mental health as a priority in 2021 has given way in 2024 to excessively taxing Canadians to the brink of financial ruin. Mental health consequences be damned. The fact remains that while, yes, mental health is health, economic stability contributes to mental health. A financially stable Canadian does not have the same economic stressors on them that a non-financially stable Canadian does. Subsequently, there is less stressors on our already straining healthcare system, particularly our mental health. We only need to turn to this government's own numbers to validate the relationship between finances and mental and physical health. In March of 2019, the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada released a report that showed financial concerns were a greater source of stress than relationships, than workplace performance, or their own personal health. Nearly half of Canadians have lost sleep worrying over which bills they would be able to pay. 44% of Canadians say they would be in dire financial straits if a paycheck was late. This, Madam Speaker, is all part of a vicious feedback loop. Mental health issues make it more difficult to earn and seek help, resulting in financial distress. Then you start worrying about where you're going to go to get your next meal, or what valuables to sell to pay off your past due internet bill so your service isn't cut off, or what side hustle you're going to find, adding additional stress and anxiety onto already existing mental health issues. rinse, and repeat. This is the reality of too many of the constituents in Hastings, Lennox, and Addington, and people across this country. The absolutely last thing they need is this government adding onto that financial burden. This is an opportunity to alleviate the burden they placed on Canadians when they hiked the tax on gas. Vacations, road trips, a time to step back are all great ways to reduce stress, spend family time, and come back to the workplace motivated, inspired, and recharged. This is absolutely true. But the reality is that too far many Canadians may not be able to even consider taking a vacation because they're so financially destitute that the savings that this common sense conservative motion would do is put money back in their pockets. Not necessarily just go on road trips, but use it for their grocery bill. Use it for all the other pressing issues that Canadians are facing. A recent survey, Madam Speaker, by Ipsos shows that while nearly 80% of Canadians really need a vacation, 2/3 are scaling back due to inflation and economic uncertainty. And 3 out of 5 Canadians are scrapping their vacations entirely. Shame. Canadians aren't thinking about Disney, they're thinking about dinner. A clear indicator of this government's failure is not just to provide for Canadians, but continue to take what little Canadians have. Today, we have an opportunity to provide a temporary measure of relief for Canadians over the summer. This helps families, single parents, students, seniors, and everyone in between. Pausing the tax on fuel will provide benefits to all Canadians. If they choose to use those extra dollars on a road trip and support local tourism, great. If instead they want to use it to pay bills and get groceries, that's okay too. The real kicker is here, Madam Speaker, is that we are not even proposing to spend or give tax dollars to Canadians. We're simply asking that the federal government stop taking from them. I think this last point will really illustrate a dangerous mentality that far too many governments have. They view themselves as entitled to the money of the taxpayer. It's not Canadians' money. Oh no, it's the government's, and they are going to collect it. This reminds me of the comments of a former Liberal cabinet minister when he served as CEO of the Mint, which I think encapsulate the mentality of this current Liberal NDP government. I am entitled to my entitlements. This time, Madam Speaker, I think even David Dingwall himself would have to agree that it is the taxpayer footing the bill. Thank you.